everyone, this is Tricia with The Messengers. Today I'm going to continue reading my book, Okay God, Let's Start From Here. We are on Chapter 2, Listen. You can obtain a copy on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So let's start. I have my special bookmark. Listening is not just hearing with your ears, it's hearing with your heart. Understanding comes with true listening. Sometimes we can spend too much time talking and we don't listen enough. Wars can be started with words, but avoided with listening. When we truly put others first, we can learn more about who they are and who we need to be in Christ. We can learn what they need so we can help them in their journey with God. We're meant to edify others only, not to speak harsh words or hurt others. Paul tells the Thessalonians this very thing. So encourage each other and build each other up, just as you are already doing. That's 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 11. In a letter to the Ephesians, Paul talks about the words of our mouth and how they are to be used to help one another. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace to its hearers. That's Ephesians 4, verse 29. So when we listen more, we hurt less. We can hurt ourselves less, and we can hurt others less just by listening to what is said. Men are often accused of not listening the way women think they should. Women are often accused of talking too much. Therefore, they're not able to really listen. The truth is that it depends on the person. Many people, men and women, are so caught up in their own lives and things of this world that they don't take time to listen with their whole heart to hear what people are saying. I do not want to group men versus women, but science has found that men are created with different genes than women. I find they tend to react differently than women because when they hear a problem, they want to fix it. Women have genes that tend to nurture and want to help the person who has the problem. These two differences are in no means the way every man and woman reacts to things. But knowing this, we can see how some cases of listening and reacting to problems may be construed as overwhelming or underwhelming. For example, Jessica had a problem with a coworker, and she just needs someone to listen to her hurting heart. She explains the situation to Deborah, who listens and tells her everything will be okay if she just lets it go and gives it to God. Jessica's friend Alan hears about the problem and goes to the coworker explaining that things need to change where Jessica is concerned. Now both of Jessica's friends have only her best interest at heart, but the way they go about helping her is different. While Jessica may need to just vent to Deborah, she also needs to hear reassurance from her. Alan, although trying to help, may have fixed the problem, or he may have made it worse. The point is, they both listened. So when we feel someone isn't listening, they actually may be, they're just processing it in their own way. We need to be listening and lifting others up. Deborah could have been talking to Jessica about things in her own life and not really taken the time to listen to Jessica, but just heard her words. Alan may not have been listening to Jessica and not bothered to do or say anything to help alleviate her problem. We need to listen more and speak less. We need to listen to understand, not just reply. James 1 verses 19 through 20 says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires." Sometimes people don't even have to speak for you to listen to what they're saying. When someone's hurting, if you pay attention, you don't have to hear them speak before you know that something is wrong. Sometimes the things people don't say are louder than what they do. In these cases, we need to hear with our heart and help in any way that we can. One of the ways I communicate with God is through a journal. I talk to Him and then I write down what He has to say to me. He tells me these things for everyone to hear and understand. They're teaching tools and lessons we all need to learn. He says this several times throughout my journals. I am always here to listen. You know you can always come to me. I am always talking, but you are not always listening. We need to not only be hearers of the word, but doers also. James warns his listeners about this. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and then, after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. That's James 1:22 through 25. God explains it this way in the journal. You are doing much better at asking, but now we need to work on listening and putting it into practice. Even when you listen, you may not always obey. Obey is the lesson of the day. It is the lesson of every day. Keep your eyes on me and listen and obey. You need to do what I say when I say it. Don't stop to think. Just listen to me and jump. When you're trusting me and doing what I say, no harm will befall you. You have to obey to get bigger trust levels. You cannot get good results if you won't listen to my answers. Often when we get into battles, physical or spiritual, we may hear God, but we don't really listen. When we need Him the most, we need to get alone with Him and listen to how He wants us to fight that battle. Reading His Word and praying to Him are not the only way we can get things done. We have to come to the point where we listen and obey His commands. Now, sometimes we have to go round and around the mountain, or our problem, so to speak, several times before we give ourselves over to God and listen to Him to find the answers to our problem. Wouldn't it be great if we could just do that in the first place? That would be so nice. That should be the goal for all of us, for every believer. It's all about our relationship with Him. Wherever we are in our walk with God, He wants us to be closer. He longs for an intimate relationship with each of us. He wants to tell us things, wonderful things, but we have to be listening to understand them. This is how He puts it in a journal entry. I will show you wonderful things, but you must ask me to understand them and put them into perspective. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. So watch what you put in your mind and spirit. Think on pure and lovely things. Think on me and listen to what the Spirit is saying to you. You need to listen and obey. He gives us a good recipe to help us fight our battles. Ask me and listen. Don't get depressed or lose that joy. You're fighting in a battle that you must win. Pray without ceasing. Build yourself up in your most holy faith. Sometimes we just don't feel like listening to God. Now, we may not be saying that in those words, but by whining and complaining all the time, we are saying we just don't want to listen to God. I don't mean that we cannot vent our feelings, but we need to go to God after we do. We can tell Him anything from our highs to our lows. He wants to hear them from us, but He also wants us to listen to what He has to say in order to help us. So I was in the middle of a battle at one point and had another session where I was complaining to God. Why, God? It's a question we ask so many times in the midst of our struggles. Then I realized I was questioning God, and that made me stop and think. Was I whining too much? Was I just not listening to God? I started to write in my journal, and this is what he said. I don't mind answering the same questions over and over if you're willing to listen and do what I say. It is hard to answer the same question over and over when you aren't listening, truly listening and obeying. Never stop asking. That is not at all what I'm saying. Just listen and obey. So I started to listen to him better, and even though it took a while to fight that battle, I came out on top, but only when I stopped and listened to what he was telling me to do. Jesus taught that he was the good shepherd, and that we as his children are his sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay my life down for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay my life down, only to take it up again. That's John 10, verses 14 through 17. Now, sheep are interesting little creatures. They're very dumb according to our standards, but one thing they do is listen. If a stranger tries to lead a sheep away from the flock, it will not usually go. It listens to its shepherd's voice. Jesus used this example of how we are with him. When we are his sheep, or believers, we will listen to him and answer his call. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. That's John 10, verses 2 through 4. We might wander away from the flock on our own, and if we do, the devil is just lying in wait, ready to gobble us up as a lion would a sheep. He is a master deceiver, and we are made susceptible when we're not with our flock, other believers following Jesus. But Jesus made a wonderful promise to us in a parable he taught while he was on this earth. So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for that one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he joyfully carries it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. That's Luke 15, verses 3 through 7. When I was younger, this verse always seemed like he didn't care about the other 99 that were left behind. But that is not the truth at all. He loved the 99 so much, he knew they could be trusted with keeping themselves together. He knew he could go after that one sheep because it needed him at that moment more than the 99. If it was one of the other 99, he would have done the same thing. He trusted his sheep to listen to his voice. We find that God is always talking, and we must always be listening, not just hearing. We need to be that way with everyone. I encourage you to take time to just listen to those around you. Make it a point to stop the craziness in your world for a while and just focus on what a loved one is saying. Show someone you care about that you love them enough to just listen and help if need be. It will give you a sense of understanding that you didn't have before. So make it a point to sit down with God and do the same thing. Ask him your questions. Tell him how you feel. Rant and rave if you must, but then stop and listen. Listen to what he is telling you, because he is always telling you something. Open your heart and listen. Then obey what he tells you to do. Even if he only tells you he loves you, obey him by accepting that fact and remembering it as you go throughout your day. Everything comes down to our relationship with God, and listening is the beginning of any good relationship. This is something he's saying to you right now. Listen. Listen intently to what I say. I say you are mine. You are my beloved. You are a child of the Most High God. You are more than your feelings. God showed me this in a journal, and I believe it is a trustworthy saying. The best teachers are listeners, and the best listeners are teachers. You must be both. We need that special relationship with God. When I find myself getting too caught up in my own issues and not asking God or listening to him, I take the time to go to him and say, "Okay, God, let's start from here." That ends chapter 2. So I hope you enjoyed today's chapter. You may contact me anytime at www.themessengersradio.com. Next time, we're going to look at chapter 3, which is authority. I love you guys. Bye.